Taurus, the most stubborn and bubum-tish, bull-headed of the Zodiac. Also my boyfriend's Zodiac, so, you know, close to home. As well as being fantastically femme and flirty because of Venus. Yeah, Zodiac, they always uncover a little thing that's just like, oh yeah, goddess of beauty, why not, why not? So that's the base of my planning. Obviously, there's a lot of fun to be had with the cow aesthetic, and I kind of went full on into that. So the horns, the hooves, didn't give her a tail because she wears clothes, and yeah, so the design mostly revolves around the kind of earthiness, down to earth, and I don't know, I think it's quite feminine, so yeah, nothing more than that. Because the horns were so integral, and I really just wanted to test out this new kind of air dry clay, it's so weird. I would recommend it, but you'll see as it develops what I would and would not recommend it for. So it starts off with making the horns, so using a wire structure underneath. Now, this is probably the worst part of the design. I didn't make it symmetrically, which is a problem that I constantly have with sculpture, and I mean, even the holes aren't symmetrical. I'd recommend doing more planning than just me eyeballing it. And also, the main problem with the end product is that the wire structure for one of the horns was too long. So I'd recommend using slightly thinner wire and twisting the excess wire together at the top of the head, so that there isn't any poking or manoeuvring and basically wobbling that can be done when you're done, because yeah, it ain't the best look. I mean, it's only certain angles and I'm sure I can just open her head up, you know, pull her off the neck peg and, you know, fix it when I can be bothered. But yeah, in general, really weird clay. It's like a soft foam, and I'd recommend, if you use it, keep it well sealed and use it fast. So it's really easy to blend together at first, but as soon as it starts air drying at all, it does not meld together at all. It doesn't, you know, grip to itself. So it's a work fast type of a dealio. However, it is so soft and so fun and so weird, and I found for the hooves, which you'll see, it's actually surprisingly grippy. I originally planned on having them come off, but I used the plastic bag, and I tried. If I had any saran wrap, it probably would have worked, but I tried with a plastic bag tying it around and it wasn't working, so I just decided, those are her feet. Those can always be her feet. She'll never wear shoes. She don't need a removable hooves. That's not how hooves work. So if you want to add a little bit to something, it kind of grabs on surprisingly well. Like, I'm not sure whether it would work for horns, like just straight on sticking on horns, but yeah, try it out. Maybe I'll do an experiment next time. Why not? Even though I am so happy with the end product of the doll, I have to say this is probably the worst shooting I've done in terms of the actual repaint. So when I was at university in last year, I had a proper room and I had a setup that I set up, but no, half of these videos I literally had to just remove 2 steps because it's just the back of my head. It's just my hairy hair being videoed. So I started off with 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear and then got into it. I used a light orange colour to map out the eyes mostly, and I probably had about 4 layers. This is probably one of the weirdest quick repaints because I did all of the layers on the 2 setup layers in one day, just one full day, and yeah, it was lots of fun. But then obviously the conditions for the Mr. Super Clear on my last layer weren't perfect, because when I went to wash the hair, because she's a, you know, excess cheap doll that I saved, her hair was matty. When I cleaned it again, it wiped about half of her right eye off, so, or left eye, it's on our right, so her left eye, so I had to do probably the equivalent of 2 layers just for that eye. And yeah, so basically after you set up the base layer, you continue doing it until the pigment and the colours are the opacity you want. And yeah, I actually found this surprisingly easy. It wasn't as bad as usual, because I think planning with the photo of the actual doll meant that I knew what I was doing, basically, because I already knew where the lines of the sculpt were going, which really helped. I'd recommend it. And also, I'm sorry that you can't see half of it, but one of the most fun things, as always, was the pastel blushing, and literally none of it makes it in because my big hairy head. Sorry. But yeah, see the steps as it goes.
What's Annie been doing? He's in charge of the food.
I did something astounding. I made a plan, and made a plan dress. So I got a fabric that was of a similar kind of texture to the fabric I wanted to use, and made this plan dress. So it's got a tiny tulip pattern, which is adorable, and I originally thought they were strawberries, but they're still adorable, and I really wanted to make a dress out of it. So I decided to do a trial version of the dress, because I figured the kind of ruffly look could look quite garden party-esque. So I can finish this and make a doll to go with it if anyone's interested. But I'm quite happy with how it turned out. It's essentially a triangle for the top, and then a neck piece going around the neck to secure it. A halter neck? Is that what they call it? No, it's not a halter neck at all. I don't know, it's a neck. And from there, a rectangle. I actually end up curving the rectangle for the plan dress, and a piece of fabric about twice the length of the dress to make the bottom ruffle. When I saw the end dress of the plan dress, I thought it was really cute, and it really matched the fabric that I had. It just didn't match the fabric I wanted for the doll, so I decided to make it a bit more sleek and romantic by giving it a more mermaid tail. I have no idea where fish egg came from. That would be a very different shape. And yeah, I think I messed it up a bit. I accidentally did I always make some sort of mistake, and this time it was not remembering which way is the front way. So I did the shirt and the ruffle on different sides. You'll see, it's obvious. It was so frustrating. But yeah, fix that up. And yeah, I don't think I showed it, so I used a piece of Velcro to affix the shirt, the dress closed at the back. So about 24 hours later, now that all of the clay pieces they're not hard, because it's made of weird foam clay. I don't know what it is. It confuses me. I'm astounded. However, it takes to paint really well, actually. So I have some very watered down brown acrylics and a bit of black, and I just get to it. So I wanted a kind of semi-gradient on the hooves, so that the hoof part is darker and going into a lighter brown. I wasn't trying quite to match her skin colour. It was more of just brown, and not a very thick one. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about the texture, because the hooves were one of the first things I did in the clay. They're a bit more textured, very much so. So I kind of like it. It's a bit more rustic. Why not? And yeah, so gradient on that. The horns, I was going to just do the same gradient on them, but then I decided there are some African cow horns that have a nice little black tip, and I was just like, yeah, let's take advantage of the white. And so I just kind of lightly softened that with very watered down light brown and darker brown at the base, little black tip. And then the cow skull, once again, I didn't want that to be pure white, so same kind of thing for that, but instead of making a light watery brown, what I did is put the brown in the crevasses that I would want to be more visible and defined, and then wiped the rest away with water, so it kind of spread a tiny amount of pigment and left more pigment where I wanted more pigment. So win-win. Next step, assembly. So we're not going into a hall and have a teacher shout at you. No, that's a bad joke. Instead, what we have to do is put the horns back in. I would say another thing that maybe I should have done is I moulded the horns whilst they were in the head, and maybe I should have just left them in there. Quite honestly, I was keeping her hair behind where the horns are anyway, and I probably should have just continued. I could have blushed them as I went. You know, learn from my mistakes and tie them together inside, A, and B, just leave them in there. Use some super glue at the visible areas. Do better than me. And then soften the neck rubber, plastic, whatever it is, and put it on the neck peg, which is the reason why my horns were wobbly, because the neck peg and the wire hit each other inside of the head. So yes, learn from my mistakes. And after that, put the nice outfit on her body. Her feet, her hooves are nice and painted, and let's get with the final touches. So I felt the dress is nice and all, but I want a bit more intrigue. So I have the leather tie, so you can see that's quite just a little visible detail, and then a kind of decorative belt with the cow skull that I made earlier. Art attack here, and if you get that joke, Americans maybe not. And yeah, added a little kind of turquoisey bead to kind of try to pull together the turquoisiness. I did have a bag of beads, but it's in storage since I moved back from university, and I have not seen it in about 2 months. So I found this light blue one, and it's close enough. And yeah, tie that up at the back, sew the strap onto the belt strap, and yeah, it's real simple. Simples. I'm not a meerkat. So yeah, with her all done, I'm really happy with it. I absolutely love the design actually, and I had a lot of fun working with a fabric I'm not used to. I would say with this fabric, definitely be careful. I don't know what kind of fabric it is, I'm sorry, I don't know technical terms, but these kind of thin, flowy ones, I would say make sure that the seam allowance is much more, because it's much more freighty, and have fun with it. Yeah, my clothing designs are always quite simple, so feel free to copy that. Feel free to learn from my mistakes and successes with the clay I've used. And yeah, if you're a Taurus, I hope you can see a little bit of yourself in this, or if not, you just had a fun time. Also non-Tauruses, you too. And yeah, if you want to see my progress and my art, you can see it on Instagram, and follow me on YouTube, and like and subscribe and all those YouTube things, and thank you again, guys.
You need a picture of that.
I am recording them.
Cool. Good.
Choose a look at my screen.
Oh, are you watching my video recording of?
No, look.
Well, then, oh, are they up there by the
Yeah.
spoon? I see them now.
They're like our ones.
they're not as fat and